What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we are talking about the druid that really gets the most recognition amongst the other druids, and that is the Circle of the Moon. But before we do that, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch this channel are not subscribed, so please help us to reach our goal of 2,000 by the end of this year. We could reach it today if everybody goes out there and just shares the video with your friends, and then of course click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. So the Circle of the Moon Druid really has a reputation that precedes it. Whenever you talk to anybody who does anything D&D, this is the druid that is kind of the go-to, right? And it has a lot of really compelling features, and it does a lot of things differently that a lot of other druids don't even come close to doing. And what it does is it really enhances the wild shape feature. We've talked about the wild shape feature in depth a lot over the course of these last few druids we've covered, but none of them, except for the Circle of the Blighted Druid, which I'll put up in the icon above, did anything to boost our wild shape feature. They were all just what you get is what you get, which is fine, I guess, as you're boosting other parts of the druid, but the Circle of the Moon is what really doubles down on your wild shape, and that is our main focus, and that is what we're going to just really double down on. Is it worth doubling down on this one feature and not boosting any other part of us? Let's find out. At level 2, we get 2 features, and the first is Combat Wild Shape, and this does a couple of things. Number 1, this moves our wild shape from an action to a bonus action, and you wouldn't think that this would make such a big deal, but it's a huge deal. Being able to act on your turn, on the same turn that you use your wild shape feature, is huge. So you can bonus action, use this, and then maybe you have an extended walking speed. You can then dash to run a really long way. You can just make an attack, which you couldn't do before. It's usually wild shape, sit there for a second, and then if you take a big hit, then you're just knocked out of wild shape and you feel like it's been super wasted, which really sucks. But this gives you so many more options. But the most common way that I see this used is cast a spell and then wild shape. That's pretty much the main reason to do this, is because you can lay down something like a fairy fire and then bonus action wild shape, and now your whatever form you're in has advantage on the enemy that you are going up against, which is really, really nice. If that was all, then we would really still be doing quite good. However, you can also now use spell slots to heal 1d8 of your health while you're in wild shape per spell slot that you blow. This is great, right? That's really strong, being able to heal our wild shape, especially when we're able to have so much more HP with our next feature we're going to talk about. It's pretty fantastic. There's nothing less that I can give this than a 10. It's just that good of a feature that completely transforms wild shape into really what every druid wishes that it was. We also get circle forms at level 2, and this allows us to change into more powerful beasts. So instead of being locked down to beasts of 1/4 challenge rating or lower, we just start off at 1. So where we normally had to start off with a regular wolf, we now can jump straight to direwolf, which was the epitome of what we could do. And now it is just the starting point, which is really crazy to be able to just go nuts, right? Now we are still limited by the table as far as we cannot fly or swim until 4 and 8 respectively, but it's still really nice to be able to beat that CR limit. And once we reach level 6, then we can actually transform into beasts that are CR 1/3 of our level or less, which is really good. That's going to give us up to CR 6 at level 18, which is really strong. Overall, this is going to be a 10 out of 10 feature. I want to talk briefly about other options though, since we have opened up such an amazing catalog of creatures here. Now we are kind of limited at certain CRs, but I want to go through all of the options that we really have and talk about just how good they really are. Of course, here at level 2, we're at CR1, which I talked about CR1 beasts quite a bit in our initial Druid guide, so I'll leave that up in the icon above right there for your initial few levels. But once we get to level 6, we can go up to a CR2, which is really good. And at this point, we would also have access to a swimming speed. So I'm going to go over some things that have walking speed and swimming speed. As far as our main walking speed creature, the giant elk is really the go-to, right? We talked about a lot how the cow and the deep rothe are really good at really low levels, especially for things like conjure animals for your CR1 quarters. This is basically those just on steroids and deals a lot more damage. But the stat block is incredibly similar, but I would take this any day. It's 42 health with a 14 AC. That's not bad at all. I think that's actually quite fantastic, and I think that it's definitely worth considering that. You could also take something like the giant constrictor stake. This is 60 HP, but it can swim, but it's also quite good. But my main one that I look for in the water is going to be the hunter shark. The hunter shark is a CR2 beast. It has decent HP. It has a really quite bad AC, but it's still really nice, and you get advantage as long as the creature is missing at least 1 HP. That's huge, right? Being able to just have constant advantage is kind of insane when you are just in the water. Now, of course, how situational is it going to be that you are in the water and it's rough, right? You might not be able to use this effectively. One other really good land option is going to be the polar bear. The polar bear does deal really good damage, and it is quite bulky. I personally prefer the giant elk, but the polar bear is more than viable. It's really good at CR2. At CR3, we get a couple of things. If you're using dinosaurs, the Ankylosaurus could be good, but again, you have to have seen the creature, so that's unlikely. As far as in the water, the killer whale is a really great option. It's really bulky, which is the whole thing. It's 90 HP, but of course, you have to be able to swim in order to do that, so it may or may not work out for you. But the giant scorpion is another one that's an interesting option here. You have a really low DC check to not take a bunch of poison damage from the stinger, but the more importantly is it can grab people with its claws. That's way more important, is being able to hold those people in place with your claws. That's super nice, and I think that's really, really fantastic. It really, really helps you out a lot. As CR4 is where we really start losing out on our options, because as we get higher level, the creatures that fall into the category start going down and down and down, and we're really at only one viable option here at CR4, and that is the elephant. The elephant is quite bulky. It deals great damage. It's a fantastic option, but it's really your only option at this CR, which is a little unfortunate, but definitely use it. It's still really, really fantastic. At CR5, we only have a couple of options, and I really would go with, if you have access to the Triceratops, okay, but I'm assuming you probably don't most of the time. The giant crocodile is actually pretty good too. Good damage. It can swim if you need it to, but it's quite fast. Actually, you wouldn't think that this thing would be fast, but it's actually got a good speed, which is really good. And in water, the giant shark is really great. 126 HP. That's really good. I think that's really, really strong. I love the fact that it's like that. And finally, we only get one option for CR6 at level 18, the mammoth. The mammoth is, of course, one of the strongest beasts out there. I mean, the thing about it is that we only go up to CR8 with beasts, right? So we're only 2 off from the strongest beast that's out there, which is kind of insane to think about, that we're getting that high up with a class feature. That's really good, right? I really, really like that a lot. Now, you'll notice one thing that I did not notice, and that's the owl bear. Now, the owl bear, of course, has come back into the fray when it comes to this discussion, because of the movie trailer that has come out recently for Honor Amongst Thieves. Listen, if you want to use an owlbear at your table, go for it. It's not rules as written, but who cares, right? It doesn't matter. Just do it. It's fun. It's for fun. The owlbear is an iconic thing for D&D, so I understand why they did it in the movie. But if you want to turn into something that's very animal-like that, do it. Just talk to your DM before you just kind of assume that you can do it. But a lot of DMs that I've spoken to would definitely allow it. This, of course, is a 10 out of 10 feature. It is super strong. I definitely will be upgrading these as I go. Definitely worth it. At level 6, on top of the upgrade to Wild Shape that we just got, we also get Primal Strike, and this makes all of our attacks coming from Wild Shape magical. Why can't we do this with all of the subclasses? I don't know, but this changes everything, right? One of the biggest weaknesses of Wild Shape is the fact that it is not considered magical attacks. And once you're hitting 6th, 7th, 8th level, nearly everything you fight is going to be resistant to at least non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. This just shores that up, which is a amazing thing to boost up, and it's going to just keep you effective through everything, right? So as your damage would start to fall off, it just picks back up, right? And that's what's so nice about getting this. This is also a 10 out of 10 feature. You cannot downplay just how strong having magical attacks is when it comes to using your Wild Shape. At level 10, we get Elemental Wild Shape, and so now we can turn into an Elemental, which it's crazy that we're getting this at level 10. Elementals are CR 5, right? So the highest level of CR creature that we have access to right now is 3, because we just passed level 9. So you're skipping 2 of them. So right now, between this level and when you would get access to CR 5, you're way ahead, which is really strong for you. And really, elementals don't really back off all that much. They've got a ton of health. They deal a good amount of damage. They've got great resistances. If you're trying to deal a bunch of damage, go with the fire one. If you're trying to be more defensive, go with the earth one. I mean, there's a lot of really great flexibility in being able to turn into an elemental. 10 out of 10. You can't go any lower. Being able to do this early is just so insanely good. Finally, at level 14, we get 1000 Forms, and this is the most disappointing feature of the entire build. You get to cast Alter Self at will. So here's the thing. Being able to cast a 2nd level spell at will is fun. It's not great because we're at level 14, right? We have a lot of high level spells at this point. You know, we just got 7th level spells last level. We're going to 8th level spells next level. We're going to be casting animal shapes. I mean, it's really late to be getting access to a 2nd level spell all the time. So it's not that great, but it's still fun, right? Which is the whole thing, is that you can turn into all kinds of crazy stuff. And this is kind of plays into that. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. It's fine. It's not that great. It's there for flavor, but overall it's not going to be anything crazy. So where do we land on this subclass? I think that my ranking is going to surprise absolutely no one, but 10 out of 10, right? This is a 10 out of 10 subclass. There's no hiding it. Being able to use it as a bonus action, being able to turn into more powerful creatures, being able to heal those more powerful creatures, being able to hit magically, and then being able to turn into a magical elemental. It's all insane. It's absolutely ridiculous the amount of power that is all packed into this subclass, along with the already really strong Druid kit. You cannot go wrong with this subclass. It is absolutely broken. Yeah, it can't be any lower than a 10 out of 10. It's really good. So that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Of course, later this week, we're going to be building one of these together, and I hope you guys are looking forward to that, because I am. I have a fun build planned for you. One of my more simple builds, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it. If so, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.